Well, again, what are we all waiting for with bated breath? We're waiting to see what the Supreme Court rules. There's two very important decisions that are supposed to come down. One is if gays and lesbians can marry in all states, and that could be mandated by the Supreme Court. That's totally insane all by itself. The other is also most interesting. And I've made mention of this before. The reason I'm going to go through this again is for my new viewers and my new subscribers. This might very well affect them. If you take a look at how Obamacare was written, never mind how it was conceived, which was a scam by Harry Reid, which I've made mention of in countless videos, the way it was written, it was designed to force states to open up their own exchanges. And the way they designed it into Obamacare is only states that had their own state exchanges would allow their citizens to receive subsidies. In other words, if the state did not open up their own state exchange, the citizens in those states would not be eligible to receive subsidies. Now, without subsidies, nobody can afford Obamacare, or most people can't afford Obamacare. Even those that receive subsidies can't afford Obamacare because the high deductibles and the high copay, but that's a different story. They'll find out when they go to the doctor, assuming the doctor even accepts their insurance. So what happened was 37 states chose not to open up their own state exchanges. And what that means is that their citizens are not eligible to receive subsidies. And again, it was written that way specifically to force states to open up their own exchanges. Now, since that law was written, the Obama administration, or his criminal dysfunctional government, which is what it is providing subsidies to citizens in all states. And the reason that is again, if they didn't receive the subsidies, which most of them shouldn't receive because they lied about their income and they lied about a whole lot of other things, but that's a different story. If they didn't receive the subsidies, they could not afford Obamacare. The Supreme Court is supposed to rule on whether or not subsidies should be allowed in states that did not open up their own exchanges. Now, the law, again, is very clear. There's no gray, there's no ambiguity, there's perfectly no misunderstanding. Any state that did not open up their own exchanges cannot be eligible for subsidies. We're going to learn how honest or how dishonest our Supreme Court is real soon. If the Supreme Court comes back, as I suspect that they will, and say that irrespective of what the law that was written into Obamacare stated, we're going to mandate that all states can receive subsidies, irrespective of whether or not they open up their own exchanges. If they do that, which I think they will, this will prove without a doubt that the Supreme Court is corrupt as all hell. Now, that might be because Obama, through NSA, has all kinds of garbage in all of these Supreme Court justices. I don't know, folks, but I'm telling you right now, if the Supreme Court comes back and says that all states, all their citizens are eligible for Obamacare, then you know you've got an absolute criminal, corrupt Supreme Court. There's no gray. It's really that simple. They either can receive it or they can't receive it. The law was written, only those states that open up their own exchanges can receive it. We'll soon find out. I'm inclined to think, as I've stated earlier, they're going to say that it's legal. And the reason that is, the excuse they're going to use is, hey, look at all the people who will be impacted if we go ahead and do not allow them to receive subsidies. You know what should happen? The Republican Party should take control and say, you know what, we're going to fix this nightmare. There's billions of dollars. And all of these insurance companies have been in on the scam. They cannot determine which patient received which service. There's no back-end accounting to Obamacare. They're all implicated. So what the Republican Party should do is say, hey, you know what? You're going to continue to provide insurance until we can figure out a way how to make this thing work equitably, fairly for everyone. None of this bullshit that Obama's put into place. And again, Obamacare was never designed to work. It was designed to do exactly what it's doing, get a lot of people on it. And next year, what happens next year is all the employees have to be on it. And when that happens, it'll be too late. The Supreme Court should have looked at this 2 years ago. They should have looked at it 3 years ago. They should have looked at it when Harry Reid did a switcheroonie. When he took a document that was approved by the House of Representatives, which was a tax credit for military housing, and Harry Reid substituted the documents with Obamacare. That's blatant, unequivocal fraud. Has he ever been held accountable? No. Why not? Because they're all corrupt. And you will see just how corrupt the Supreme Court is if they go ahead and approve the mandates, if they approve the dollars still being given, the subsidies still being given to those citizens in states that didn't open up their own exchanges. That answers your question, folks. The Supreme Court will prove themselves to be a corrupt arm of this dysfunctional criminal administration. That's sort of what I think. If you have any questions, send them to me and I'll try to clarify it further. Hopefully I've covered off all the bases so you have a solid understanding. As far as this thing with the gays and the lesbians, it's none of their effing business. What do you think Elena Kagan is, huh? So how can you have someone that's, I believe, a lesbian determining the fate of all American citizens? It's none of their effing business. That's what I think. What do you think?